Soft wind moves through ancient stone. The quiet hum drifts like memory carried across endless time. In the beginning, people looked to the stars for answers, but found silence stretching beyond reach. Then came the voice, calm and eternal, rising not in thunder, but in wisdom gently unfolding. It was the voice of Athena, goddess of clarity, insight, and the courage of thoughtful choice. Her presence was not fire or storm, but a guiding light shaping hearts and cities with reason. Athena's story begins not with weapons, but with knowledge born pure, whole, and radiant. She was a symbol of wisdom given form, a promise that understanding could outlast chaos. The world listened, quietly at first, then deeply, as her words became roots in human history. The olive tree she offered still stands, a living breath of peace and enduring resilience. The owl at her side whispers, reminding us to see what lies hidden in shadow and silence. Every stone of her temple in Athens still hums with her timeless song of balance and truth. Tonight, we step into that song, listening for the eternal voice of Athena, the voice of wisdom. Long before memory, there was silence. And from silence, a spark of thought began to rise unseen. The world was still shaping itself, yet within the hidden skies, a voice prepared to awaken. This was not a voice of thunder, nor the roar of storm, but a clear resonance, steady and bright. It was the beginning of Athena, goddess of wisdom, born in a way unlike any other divine tale. Legends speak of her arrival not in pain or chaos, but in brilliance, whole and shining. She appeared radiant, clothed in clarity, her eyes carrying the glow of unseen knowledge. Every breath she drew was a ripple across eternity, a signal that wisdom had taken form. She was not a child to grow, nor a student to learn, for she was wisdom itself embodied. The myths say her birth was sudden, like light breaking through darkness after endless night. And yet, no violence defined it, only the mystery of a goddess stepping into timeless being. The other gods paused, startled not by noise, but by the calm gravity that surrounded her. Athena stood with grace, her form complete, her mind already filled with infinite patterns. She was thought made flesh, an idea turned into a living presence of reason and insight. Unlike others, she did not carry flame or storm, but a still fire within, pure and eternal. This inner fire was not for burning, but for illuminating the paths unseen by mortal eyes. The world would soon learn that wisdom does not strike, but guides with quiet certainty. Her presence became a balance to impulse, a reminder that clarity shapes destiny. From her first breath, she carried the weight of counsel, steady, calm, and unshaken. The sky itself seemed to listen, holding its breath for the words she had not yet spoken. In her silence, there was strength. In her gaze, a depth that promised hidden answers. The gods saw not a warrior first, but a guide who would teach harmony within chaos. Her birth told a truth. Wisdom arrives not with noise, but with clarity that changes everything. Athena's first steps echoed with purpose, as though the earth itself knew her destiny. The mountains stilled, the rivers slowed. Nature listened to the quiet unfolding of wisdom. She raised her hand, not in command, but in recognition of the balance within the world. Her birth was not the end of a mystery, but the beginning of endless stories to come. For where Athena walked, understanding followed, a path of insight traced through time. Every myth told after her first breath carried a fragment of that radiant wisdom. Mortals would come to know her not only as goddess, but as voice, guide, and companion. The essence of her arrival is a reminder. true power lies not in force, but in knowledge. She embodied a lesson eternal. That thought has strength equal to any storm or stone. Her presence whispered to gods and mortals alike. Clarity is the greatest gift of all. Even in birth, she was not learning wisdom, but sharing it with the world around her. She did not arrive to conquer, but to inspire, to illuminate the dark corners of thought. From her first moment, the world changed, not by fire, but by the shaping of understanding. Athena's arrival was the dawn of a new voice, the eternal voice of wisdom itself. The myths tell us she came whole, her mind already open to truth unseen by others. This completeness was not perfection, but the fullness of insight flowing without end. Athena was born not as child or youth, but as timeless teacher for gods and mortals alike. Her very existence became symbol, reminding all that wisdom is both gift and path. No storm marked her coming. Only the still brilliance of thought made flesh and spirit. The voice of Athena began not with words, but with presence, with the calm of knowing. From this moment, her story would stretch across ages, echoing in temples and hearts. Her birth remains a symbol today, a reminder that wisdom is not created, but revealed. It waits, hidden within silence, until clarity steps forward and transforms the world. Thus begins the story of Athena, not in battle, not in fury, but in radiant awakening. She is the eternal spark that lights the way, the goddess whose voice is pure wisdom. In the heart of a young city, people gathered, searching for a gift that would shape their future. The land was fertile yet fragile, the sea wide and restless, the people eager for guidance divine. Two great powers stepped forward, each offering a blessing, each promising a path of prosperity. The people listened, their hearts divided, uncertain which gift would carry them toward lasting peace. One god offered strength of the seas, the might of waves, a gift of force and command. It was a promise of ships that could rule waters, of power swift and undeniable. The people hesitated, sensing the gift was great, but bound to conflict and restless striving. Then came Athena, calm and serene, her presence carrying the stillness of ancient thought. She stepped forward without storm or thunder, only the quiet certainty of enduring wisdom. In her hand, she held a simple branch, delicate leaves shimmering with silver-green light. It was the olive tree, humble and steadfast, its roots deep, its branches wide with promise. She spoke softly, her words like ripples across a tranquil lake, touching every heart that listened. This tree will nourish you with fruit, golden and pure, a gift of sustenance in every season. It will give oil, light for your homes, healing for your wounds, warmth for your hearth. It will offer wood for your crafts, shade for your rest, and peace in its quiet strength. The people looked upon the tree, not grand in appearance, yet filled with endless potential. They felt its promise not in noise, but in the calm breath of life it carried within. It was not a gift of conquest, but of harmony, not fleeting power, but lasting resilience. The city, still young, chose the tree, for within it lay the balance of life and peace. Thus, Athena's gift was embraced, and the city took her name, Athens, in honor eternal. The olive tree stood as a symbol, not only of survival, but of wisdom guiding choice. Its roots reached deep into the earth, as wisdom reaches deep into the soul of humanity. Its branches stretched outward to the sky, as knowledge stretches to touch the infinite. Generations would live beneath its shade, drawing strength not from war, but from patience. The tree became sacred, a living hymn to the goddess who gave without demand for power. Athena watched, not with pride, but with gentle assurance that her voice had been heard. The people thrived, their city growing strong, built on the foundation of peace and reason. The olive groves spread across the land, carrying the echo of her gift into every harvest. Merchants carried oil to distant shores, and with it, the story of Athena's wisdom traveled. Artists painted the olive's branches, poets sang of its peace, and rulers swore oaths beneath it. It became not just a tree, but a bridge between the divine and the human heart. Every leaf whispered the lesson. True prosperity comes not from conquest, but from harmony. The people remembered the goddess not for a weapon, but for a gift of life everlasting. Athena's voice was in every harvest, every flame lit by oil, every hand weaving with wood. The city flourished, not in chaos, but in balance, a reflection of her eternal guidance. Through centuries, storms would rise, empires fall. Yet the olive tree endured as guardian. Its presence reminded all who saw it that wisdom outlasts even the strongest walls of stone. The gift of the olive tree was more than survival. It was the promise of continuity. It was the symbol of hope, the eternal embrace of peace in a restless and shifting world. Athena's choice revealed her truth. Wisdom is not in fleeting strength, but in lasting kindness. Even now, the olive branch is held as a token of peace, carrying her spirit across time. It is her eternal voice made visible, simple yet profound, whispering calm to every generation. In every grove, in every leaf, in every drop of oil, the goddess still breathes her wisdom. The story of Athens began with this gift, a story not of conquest, but of harmony. Athena's voice remains there, in the rustle of olive leaves, in the silence between heartbeats. And as long as the olive tree stands, her eternal wisdom will guide those who choose peace. In the quiet hum of daily life, Athena's voice reached not only rulers, but the hands of simple people. She was known not just for counsel to kings, but for her gift to craftsmen, weavers, and makers. Her wisdom was not distant or lofty. It was woven into the fabric of ordinary labor and skill. She gave the art of weaving, the knowledge of patterns, the harmony of thread crossing thread. The loom became sacred, each strand carrying the rhythm of patience and the beauty of order. Every woman who sat at the loom felt the whisper of Athena guiding her steady hands. The tapestry was not only cloth, it was a story, a memory stitched with quiet intention. Through her gift, work itself became wisdom, a reminder that beauty grows from careful effort. Athena blessed the craftsman as well, guiding the chisel, the hammer, the shaping of stone. She taught that every tool holds a spirit, that creation requires respect for material and form. The sculptor carved not just statues, but silent prayers to the goddess of skill and reason. Each figure in marble stood as testimony that thought and art are bound in lasting harmony. Athena was the guardian of knowledge, of books unwritten, of lessons whispered in silence. She guided scholars, planting seeds of curiosity, teaching that every question births new light. Her presence was in the hands that measured, the eyes that studied, the voices that taught. Libraries were her temples as much as stone shrines, for wisdom dwelt within learning itself. She gave mortals the gift of intellect, not only to survive, but to wonder, to imagine, to create. In her, the world found a teacher who saw value not in force, but in thoughtful design. Weaving and craft were mirrors of her mind, ordered, purposeful, yet alive with subtle grace. Every woven cloth carried her blessing. Every crafted tool bore the silence of her touch. Athena's gift was not limited to skill. It was the deeper knowledge hidden within creation. The weaver learned patience, the craftsman humility, the scholar devotion to truth. Athena's voice spoke through these lessons, reminding that wisdom lives in discipline. She showed that beauty and function are never apart, but joined in the heart of creation. The city of Athens thrived not just on trade and rule, but on artistry shaped by her hand. Markets filled with woven cloth, carved wood, and crafted metal, each touched by her spirit. Every stall was more than commerce. It was a quiet hymn to the goddess of knowledge. Mothers taught their daughters weaving as a sacred rite, a tradition bound in reverence. Fathers guided their sons in carving, building, shaping, each act a prayer in motion. Athena watched not from afar, but within, for her presence was in every act of making. The goddess taught that creation is eternal, each work a seed planted for future hands. Even broken tools or faded cloth held meaning, echoes of the lesson they once carried. Her voice was clear. Skill is not only talent, but dedication, patience, and devotion. Those who listened understood that wisdom is not loud, but quiet, constant, enduring. The looms hum, the hammers ring, the turning of pages. All were sounds of her spirit. Each act of making became sacred, each creation a reflection of divine understanding. For Athena, the divine was not far above, but alive in the rhythm of daily existence. The people honored her not just with temples, but with every cloth, tool, and thought. Thus, she became not only goddess of wisdom, but patron of all who shaped and learned. Her eternal voice whispered to every worker, skill is sacred, knowledge is sacred. And so, in Athens and beyond, her gift shaped not only objects, but the soul of humanity. Through weaving, through craft, through knowledge, Athena gave the greatest gift of all. The gift of meaning in labor, the grace of thought, the eternal bond between wisdom and life. In the stillness of twilight, when shadows stretched long, the owl of Athena opened its watchful eyes. It was not a creature of fear, but of wisdom. Silent wings carrying secrets through the night air. The owl perched high above the city, its gaze steady, its vision piercing beyond mortal sight. Athena chose the owl not for beauty, but for its power to see what others overlooked in darkness. Its feathers shimmered faintly, a mirror of the stars, blending night's mystery with clarity of thought. Every blink of its eyes was a lesson. Truth often lies hidden, waiting in quiet places. The people came to know the owl as more than bird, but as the emblem of insight itself. When they saw it glide above Athens, they whispered, "Wisdom watches us, even in the night." The owl did not speak in words, but its silence was a voice, sharper than thunder, deeper than wind. It carried Athena's eternal presence, a reminder that wisdom does not sleep, nor fade with nightfall. Through the owl, she taught that true vision is not just seeing light, but perceiving the unseen. The bird became her shadow, companion, and symbol, always near yet never bound by chains. Legends grew that the owl could see into the hearts of men, revealing truth without judgment. It did not accuse, it did not condemn, it simply looked, and the gaze alone spoke volumes. Athena valued this silent companion because it reflected her own eternal way of guiding. She was not loud or forceful, but clear, steady, and impossible to ignore when truly heard. The owl circled temples, rested on olive branches, and kept the night as guardian of clarity. In its eyes, people saw more than reflection. They saw themselves, bare of illusion and pride. The wise welcomed its gaze, for they knew truth brings freedom. The foolish turned away in fear. Yet Athena never demanded that all should see, only that all should learn to seek. The owl reminded mortals that wisdom is not given, it is found, searched for, uncovered patiently. Children would point to the bird and ask their elders, "What does it see in me tonight?" And the answer always returned, "It sees the truth you carry, waiting to be lived." In this way, the owl was not only symbol, but teacher, a guide across generations. Athena's temples bore carvings of the owl, its wings spread wide across marble and stone. Coins of Athens bore its likeness, so every trade carried a whisper of her eternal wisdom. Merchants held them not just as currency, but as tokens of knowledge guiding their exchanges. The owl became part of daily life, a reminder in every pocket, in every glance skyward. It was Athena's way of weaving wisdom into the simplest acts, unseen yet ever present. The bird's call, soft and haunting, stirred the minds of poets, who wrote verses of hidden truths. Philosophers spoke of the owl as symbol of inquiry, the search for meaning beyond appearances. Even rulers in their halls placed images of the owl to remind them of reason over impulse. Its wings were not just for flight, but for carrying the eternal presence of clarity through time. Wherever the owl flew, it left not feathers, but questions, urging the soul to seek deeper. Athena smiled upon those who looked to the owl not with fear, but with reverence. For in its still eyes, mortals learned that knowledge is not about knowing all, but perceiving truly. The owl became her eternal companion, silent witness to choices, silent keeper of wisdom. And so, even when Athena was unseen, her presence was never absent, carried on feathered wings. In every twilight, in every silent gaze, the owl reminded the world of her eternal voice. It whispered not in sound, but in silence, that wisdom waits in the quiet places of the soul. Thus, the owl of Athena endures, timeless and true, a living emblem of vision beyond the veil. In the heart of Athens, there grew a tree unlike any other, the sacred olive of Athena. It stood tall and unyielding, its leaves shimmering silver green beneath the Mediterranean sun. The people believed it was not simply a tree, but a living gift from the goddess herself. Its trunk bore the strength of endurance, its branches the grace of peace, its fruit the wealth of life. Athena had given this tree as a blessing, a reminder that wisdom must nurture, not destroy. The olive tree became the lifeblood of the city, its roots binding earth to divine intention. From its fruit came oil, golden and pure, bringing nourishment to the tables of families. It was more than food. It was light, burning steadily in lamps through the long nights. Its oil anointed bodies, healed wounds, and blessed rituals with quiet, sacred presence. The people learned that from one tree could flow countless gifts, if cherished and tended well. Every harvest became a celebration, a hymn of gratitude to the goddess of wisdom and craft. Children climbed its sturdy branches, playing among the leaves that whispered of endurance. Mothers pressed olives with steady hands, teaching their children that patience brings reward. Fathers carried jars of oil to market, each vessel glowing like captured sunlight. Athena's olive tree was a reminder that prosperity is not born from conquest, but from care. The city thrived because of this gift, and Athens grew strong on the foundation of peace. For the olive was not only survival, it was also symbol of calm, of harmony, of divine grace. When disputes arose, elders would sit beneath the branches of the sacred tree. There they sought guidance, for the shade itself seemed to breathe wisdom into their hearts. The rustle of leaves was like Athena's voice, soothing anger, reminding of higher paths. The olive branch became a sign carried by messengers, offering peace before conflict. To carry it was to speak Athena's truth, that reason and accord are stronger than division. Across the seas, sailors carried olive oil as treasure, spreading Athens' wisdom far and wide. Foreign lands welcomed the golden liquid, knowing it carried the blessing of the wise goddess. The tree itself was guarded in the Acropolis, tended with reverence as the heart of the city. Its roots were said to never dry, for Athena's spirit flowed like water beneath the earth. Even when storms broke branches or winds scattered leaves, the tree grew strong again. This resilience was her lesson. Wisdom bends with hardship, but does not break. The olive tree stood through generations, a constant witness to lives, struggles, and hopes. Its branches crowned the victors of games, for true triumph was linked with peace and honor. Wreaths woven from its leaves adorned the brows of those who pursued excellence. Athena's gift reminded all that victory without wisdom is hollow, but with wisdom it endures. Poets wrote verses of the sacred tree, singing of its shade and its eternal, quiet strength. Philosophers used it as a metaphor, teaching that the rooted life brings lasting stability. Even children, with olive branches in hand, played at bringing peace to imagined worlds. The people of Athens knew they were blessed, for no gift held such power to unite. The olive tree was more than symbol. It was the very heartbeat of their identity. Athena had given them not a weapon, but a future shaped by nourishment and harmony. Her eternal voice whispered in every leaf, teaching that wisdom plants, nurtures, and protects. The olive tree endured as her living presence, uniting heaven's wisdom with the soil of men. And as long as its roots drank from the earth, the people of Athens felt her near. They carried her gift in their daily lives, in oil, in peace, in the promise of renewal. Thus, the sacred olive remained, timeless and true, the rooted wisdom of Athena on earth. In the bustling heart of Athens, Athena's gift of wisdom guided not only rulers, but the builders of the city. Streets grew in ordered lines, temples rose in symmetry, and markets pulsed with life and harmony. It was said that Athena whispered in the minds of architects, teaching them balance and proportion. She showed them that beauty is not only in decoration, but in structure that breathes with purpose. The Parthenon itself was not just stone and column, but a hymn of marble dedicated to her grace. Every line, every angle carried meaning, reflecting order, discipline, and devotion to the divine. The city became a living embodiment of her wisdom, shaped by hands guided with reverence. Builders learned to work not for themselves, but for the community, for all who shared Athens. Markets filled with voices, yet even there her wisdom was present, in fair trade and measured scales. She taught that prosperity must rest on justice, for without it, wealth becomes a fleeting shadow. Merchants who honored this truth thrived, not in greed, but in the trust of those they served. The agora, alive with sound, was more than commerce. It was dialogue, a place of shared thought. Philosophers gathered beneath porticos, their words flowing like rivers into eager ears. Athena's spirit lingered in their debates, urging questions, pressing minds to seek deeper truths. Socrates walked among them, asking, probing, uncovering the wisdom that lay in the ordinary. His method echoed Athena's eternal lesson. Wisdom is born not from answers, but from inquiry. The people learned that knowledge is not treasure to hoard, but fire to kindle in every soul. Children grew up not only with stories, but with questions, learning to shape their own thought. Athena's hand guided the birth of democracy, a system built on dialogue and shared voice. She whispered to leaders that true power lies not in command, but in listening to the people. The assembly gathered, and though imperfect, it carried her spirit of reason over tyranny. Athens became a beacon, not only of might, but of thought, art, and living wisdom. Artists painted vases, sculptors carved stone, and poets sang verses touched by divine breath. Every creation was a fragment of her eternal voice, echoing through color, shape, and sound. The city's festivals honored her not with fear, but with joy, celebrating wisdom in daily life. The Panathenaic procession carried her image, woven on cloth by the hands of devoted women. That tapestry told stories of gods and men, of struggles endured and lessons learned in time. It was not only fabric, but a mirror of her eternal gift, the weaving of life into meaning. The Acropolis shone with her presence, a crown of stone upon the city, a symbol of unity. Travelers from distant lands marveled, calling Athens the city of light, wisdom's chosen home. Athena's wisdom did not remain in temples alone. It lived in every act of civic life. A judge weighing disputes, a teacher guiding youth, a farmer tending fields. All felt her near. She was not a goddess locked in myth, but a breath that moved through every choice of the people. Athens thrived because its foundation was thought, its strength born from reason, not force. And though challenges arose, wars threatened, and storms darkened the horizon, her voice endured. For every stone laid, every law spoken, every verse sung carried her eternal whisper. Wisdom was not distant. It was alive in the city's heart, a pulse that time could not silence. Thus, Athens stood as the child of Athena, shaped by her gift, shining as her living temple. Her voice echoed not only in marble and law, but in the daily breath of her people. And through them, her wisdom spread, weaving into the world the light of eternal understanding. The sea, endless and restless, carried both promise and peril to the people of Athens. It was on the waves that Athena's wisdom found another voice, guiding sailors across uncertain waters. Though Poseidon ruled the oceans, Athena gifted mortals with the knowledge to master their journeys. She did not calm the storms, but taught the hands of sailors how to read the winds and stars. Through her, ships became more than wood and sail. They became vessels of thought and courage. Athens grew strong because its people trusted not in brute force, but in wisdom carried on the tide. The triremes, sleek and swift, bore her blessing in their very design, balanced and purposeful. Every oar stroke was a rhythm of discipline, every sail a lesson in patience and timing. Athena taught that the sea is not conquered, but respected, its secrets revealed only to the wise. Fishermen cast their nets with quiet prayers, believing her hand guided the bounty of the deep. They saw in every catch not mere survival, but a reminder that wisdom feeds both body and spirit. When storms threatened, sailors looked to her owl, circling above, a sign of safe return. The goddess never promised calm seas, but she offered clarity, the strength to endure the unknown. In harbors, statues of Athena stood watching, her gaze steady over ships and their weary crews. Offerings of oil and cloth were left at her feet, gifts of gratitude for safe passage. Sailors whispered her name as they crossed open waters, trusting her voice carried in the wind. They believed she spoke in the creak of timbers, the snap of sails, the whisper of waves. Her wisdom was not loud, but present in every decision that kept ship and crew alive. Athena's gift was navigation, not of maps alone, but of judgment, foresight, and careful choice. Captains who listened to her guidance returned. Those who ignored it found themselves adrift in folly. The sea, vast and merciless, became a teacher. But Athena ensured its lessons were not wasted. Athens thrived as a maritime power, its ships bringing trade, culture, and knowledge across the world. Markets filled with goods from distant lands, yet every exchange carried her unseen presence. She taught that trade is not greed, but the weaving of connections, the building of shared futures. Through the sea, Athens reached out, not with conquest, but with curiosity and understanding. Poets wrote of her wisdom, guiding ships like a lantern, shining even in the blackest night. They sang of her as guardian of sailors, her voice echoing in the deep like a steady pulse. The sea, once feared, became a partner, its danger softened by the goddess's enduring guidance. Every port touched by Athenian ships carried a fragment of her eternal light, a seed of wisdom. Even in distant lands, strangers saw the owl upon the sails and whispered Athena's name. Thus, her influence spread not only by land, but by wave, flowing across horizons unseen. Athena's wisdom did not end at the city's walls. It sailed with her people into the unknown. Her eternal voice taught them that every journey is not just across the sea, but within. For in facing storms, they learned resilience. In reading stars, they learned perspective. The sea became mirror and teacher. But always Athena was the guiding hand behind the helm. Her presence reminded them that wisdom is not the absence of risk, but the courage to endure it. Through her, Athens became not only a city of stone and thought, but a city of the seas. Its power was not in ships alone, but in the knowledge that steered them across endless horizons. Thus, Athena's eternal voice whispered in every wave, every wind, every journey homeward. The sea, vast and unknowable, became another temple where her wisdom was eternally honored. In the quiet hours before dawn, the city of Athens stirred with dreams born from the hand of Athena. She was not only a goddess of war and wisdom, but of the crafts that shaped daily life. It was in her gift of skill, known as techne, that the people found both purpose and pride. Athena's loom was her sacred tool, and from it she taught mortals the art of weaving. Every thread became more than cloth. It was a story, a connection, a mark of human dignity. Women of Athens gathered at their looms, their hands steady, their minds echoing her guidance. They believed each pattern carried her blessing, each weave an offering to the goddess herself. The Panathenaic robe, woven for her statue, was a masterpiece born of countless hours of devotion. It told tales of gods and mortals, stitched into fabric that shimmered like captured sunlight. Through weaving, Athena whispered a truth. Creation itself is sacred when born of patience and care. Craft was not mere labor, but a form of worship, a way of bringing beauty into mortal life. Potters turned their wheels, shaping clay into vessels that spoke of both function and grace. Their hands, guided by practice, echoed Athena's own lesson. Discipline transforms raw matter into art. On painted vases, heroes, gods, and daily scenes came alive, each curve a canvas of wisdom. Sculptors chipped marble, their chisels biting softly, finding form hidden within unshaped stone. They believed Athena lent them vision, the clarity to see beauty sleeping inside roughness. Each statue was not only for the eye, but for the soul, a reminder of ideals made visible. Blacksmiths at the forge felt her presence in sparks and flame, turning iron into tools of life. They saw her not in fire's fury, but in its order, bending strength into service for the city. Athena taught that skill is not simply talent, but knowledge married to discipline and heart. Her wisdom reminded them that creation without care is waste, but creation with intent is sacred. Even in humble crafts, her spirit breathed, for no work was too small for the goddess of wisdom. A basket woven, a shoe stitched, a roof raised, all became echoes of her eternal guidance. In every act of making, the people felt closer to her, as though her hands moved through theirs. She showed them that to shape the world is to understand it, and to understand is to honor it. Athens thrived not only because of temples and laws, but because of the hands of its people. Craftsmen and craftswomen built the city's heartbeat, guided by her steady whisper of wisdom. The agora was filled with goods, not only traded for coin, but admired as marks of excellence. Foreign visitors marveled at the artistry of Athens, carrying tales of skill back to their lands. Thus, Athena's influence spread, not only through philosophy and law, but through craft and art. Her eternal voice echoed in spinning wheels, in chisels, in looms, in hammers striking metal. She taught that to create is to participate in the divine, to bring form where once was none. Athena's wisdom reminded them, human hands are sacred when guided by thought and purpose. The city shone not only in marble and ideas, but in every woven thread, every shaped pot. For in the smallest act of craft lived the largest truth. Wisdom breathes in creation. And so, Athens became a city not only of thought and sea, but of skill, honored by the goddess. Her presence lived in every work of art and labor, in every object shaped with love and intent. Thus, her eternal voice was heard not in temples alone, but in the hum of daily life. The people knew that by creating, they honored Athena, and through her, they honored themselves. In the shaded courtyards of Athens, children gathered to listen, their eyes wide with wonder and hope. For Athena's wisdom did not dwell only in temples or markets, but in the hearts of the young. She taught the people that to guide children was to plant seeds that would bloom for generations. Stories of the gods were told not to frighten, but to teach lessons of courage, justice, and balance. Around the hearth, elders spoke of Athena's birth, a goddess sprung fully formed, radiant with wisdom. They reminded the young that knowledge can emerge sudden and powerful, like light breaking the dawn. Through fables and myths, Athena's eternal voice whispered truths hidden in the cloak of story. Children learned of the owl, her sacred bird, watching with eyes that never closed to ignorance. They learned that wisdom is not age alone, but openness to see, to question, to understand. Schools, simple in form, grew in spirit, their purpose not only letters, but shaping thoughtful souls. Teachers spoke of numbers, of stars, of the earth beneath their feet, all touched by her guidance. Athena's presence was felt in the careful way lessons were given, nurturing, never forcing knowledge. She taught that education was not a burden, but a gift, a key to the world's unfolding. In every question asked, her voice stirred, reminding them that curiosity is the root of wisdom. Children were taught to listen as much as to speak, for wisdom breathes in dialogue, not command. The agora itself became a school, a place where all could share ideas beneath open sky. A young boy listening to Socrates learned that answers are less important than honest inquiry. A girl watching her mother weave learned that patience and skill reveal beauty with steady hands. Thus, knowledge was not confined to books or scrolls, but lived in every act of daily life. Athena's gift made the whole city a classroom, every street a path of discovery and thought. Festivals, too, became moments of learning, for rituals carried lessons woven into song and dance. Children marched in processions, carrying olive branches, symbols of peace and prosperity. They saw themselves not as small, but as threads in the great fabric Athena had woven. Her eternal voice reminded them, the strength of the city lies not in stone, but in its children. Parents found her wisdom in their care, teaching not only with words, but with example and love. She whispered to them that raising a child is the most sacred craft, greater than any temple. Every story told, every hand guided, every question answered became part of her eternal legacy. The laughter of children became as holy as prayer, for it carried the seed of tomorrow. Athens thrived not by chance, but because its future was shaped with wisdom and intention. The young learned to honor justice, fairness, and thought, carrying these values into adulthood. When they grew, they became citizens not of ignorance, but of understanding and responsibility. Athena's voice was in their hearts, urging them to see the world not with fear, but with wonder. Thus, the cycle of wisdom endured, flowing from goddess to elder, from elder to child. Her presence was never distant, for every generation kept her flame alive through teaching. The city's future was written not in stone, but in minds sharpened by her eternal voice. Athena taught that to nurture a child is to shape eternity, a truth Athens never forgot. And so her wisdom lived, not only in marble and law, but in the bright eyes of its youth. In the shaded courtyards of Athens, children gathered to listen, their eyes wide with wonder and hope. For Athena's wisdom did not dwell only in temples or markets, but in the hearts of the young. She taught the people that to guide children was to plant seeds that would bloom for generations. Stories of the gods were told not to frighten, but to teach lessons of courage, justice, and balance. Around the hearth, elders spoke of Athena's birth, a goddess sprung fully formed, radiant with wisdom. They reminded the young that knowledge can emerge sudden and powerful, like light breaking the dawn. Through fables and myths, Athena's eternal voice whispered truths hidden in the cloak of story. Children learned of the owl, her sacred bird, watching with eyes that never closed to ignorance. They learned that wisdom is not age alone, but openness to see, to question, to understand. Schools, simple in form, grew in spirit, their purpose not only letters, but shaping thoughtful souls. Teachers spoke of numbers, of stars, of the earth beneath their feet, all touched by her guidance. Athena's presence was felt in the careful way lessons were given, nurturing, never forcing knowledge. She taught that education was not a burden, but a gift, a key to the world's unfolding. In every question asked, her voice stirred, reminding them that curiosity is the root of wisdom. Children were taught to listen as much as to speak, for wisdom breathes in dialogue, not command. The agora itself became a school, a place where all could share ideas beneath open sky. A young boy listening to Socrates learned that answers are less important than honest inquiry. A girl watching her mother weave learned that patience and skill reveal beauty with steady hands. Thus, knowledge was not confined to books or scrolls, but lived in every act of daily life. Athena's gift made the whole city a classroom, every street a path of discovery and thought. Festivals, too, became moments of learning, for rituals carried lessons woven into song and dance. Children marched in processions, carrying olive branches, symbols of peace and prosperity. They saw themselves not as small, but as threads in the great fabric Athena had woven. Her eternal voice reminded them, the strength of the city lies not in stone, but in its children. Parents found her wisdom in their care, teaching not only with words, but with example and love. She whispered to them that raising a child is the most sacred craft, greater than any temple. Every story told, every hand guided, every question answered, became part of her eternal legacy. The laughter of children became as holy as prayer, for it carried the seed of tomorrow. Athens thrived not by chance, but because its future was shaped with wisdom and intention. The young learned to honor justice, fairness, and thought, carrying these values into adulthood. When they grew, they became citizens not of ignorance, but of understanding and responsibility. Athena's voice was in their hearts, urging them to see the world not with fear, but with wonder. Thus, the cycle of wisdom endured, flowing from goddess to elder, from elder to child. Her presence was never distant, for every generation kept her flame alive through teaching. The city's future was written not in stone, but in minds sharpened by her eternal voice. Athena taught that to nurture a child is to shape eternity, a truth Athens never forgot. And so her wisdom lived, not only in marble and law, but in the bright eyes of its youth. As the centuries passed, the city of Athens changed, yet Athena's voice never truly faded. Stones crumbled, empires rose and fell, but her wisdom lived on in the hearts of those who listened. She was not bound to marble statues or ancient hymns, but to the spirit of thought itself. Every question asked, every truth sought, carried the quiet echo of her eternal guidance. Her owl still flew in the minds of thinkers, eyes sharp against the shadow of ignorance. For wisdom is not locked in the past. It walks beside us, alive in every choice we make. The Athenians left behind not only ruins, but ideals that ripple outward across time and space. Democracy, philosophy, art, and reason. Each was a vessel for her eternal voice. The olive tree still stands, roots deep, branches wide, whispering her lesson of peace and endurance. It tells us that true strength is not in fleeting power, but in what nourishes and sustains. Her Parthenon may be weathered, but its columns remain a testament to balance and beauty. They remind us that creation endures when guided by harmony, patience, and care. Athena's voice is not one of command, but of invitation, to think, to learn, to question. She whispers that wisdom is a journey, not a destination, a flame to pass from soul to soul. In every library, in every school, in every quiet moment of reflection, she is present. Her spirit lives in those who choose dialogue over division and reason over blind desire. She is there in the teacher's words, in the artist's vision, in the judge's careful hand. Every act of fairness, every search for truth, becomes an offering laid at her eternal altar. Her presence reminds us that to be human is to seek understanding, to shape meaning in the chaos. Athena's wisdom endures not because of temples, but because it belongs to all who seek it. It is the voice within us that says, choose balance, honor truth, walk with clarity. As long as there are minds willing to question, her voice will never fall silent. The city of Athens was her chosen home, but the world became her greater temple. Her gifts, reason, skill, and peace spread like ripples on water, reaching far beyond her people. Even now, her voice speaks in the rhythm of justice, the cadence of learning, the hum of creation. She is the quiet guide who urges us to lift our eyes from shadows and seek the light. For wisdom is not a relic, but a living breath, carried forward through every generation. Her eternal voice is a lantern, shining not only on paths of the past, but on roads ahead. In the end, Athena reminds us that knowledge without kindness is hollow, and power without thought is blind. She calls us to balance heart and mind, to weave the fabric of our lives with care. The story of Athens is not only their story, it is ours if we choose to listen. For within each of us lies the spark of her gift, waiting to be kindled into flame. And so, the tale of Athena is not an ending, but a beginning that repeats with every dawn. Her wisdom walks beside us still, in silence, in thought, in the choices we make each day. The eternal voice of Athena endures, not as myth, but as a guide, timeless, gentle, unbroken. And if we listen closely, we may hear her whisper even now, calling us toward understanding. For her gift is not only to the city of Athens, but to all humankind, forevermore.